Yes guys, welcome back. What's going on? You're watching another episode of the Premier League Appetiser show on the Asian One-to-One Football Coaching channel. Today's going to be a very, very brief episode as there was no Premier League football last weekend due to the international fixtures, but obviously we'll be looking forward to Game Week 5 fixtures and rounding up any other bits and bobs that I need to be talking about. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, hit the subscribe button right now. As soon as you've done that, you'll get notifications coming your way, knowing full well content is coming your way as well. Okay, with today's episode, we're going to be talking about Game Week 5 fixtures, talking about some other news, bits and bobs that have been making sort of the headlines, some transfers as well, which you might see what's going on. The transfer window is shut, but there's a second window if you like, which we'll be discussing briefly. European fixtures as well. There's a few European fixtures that are going to be happening this week, and then we'll be just briefly touching on Indy versus rest of the world. Let's just dive in. We'll start with other news this week. Actually, we're going to go in a bit of reverse order. So, like I just touched on, there was a bunch of international fixtures. Some nations played 2 games, some played 3 games. Sort of the most notable ones for us guys being in England. So England played 3 games, won 2 and lost 1. Other sort of home nations, if you like, Scotland won 3 out of 3 games, actually 3 out of 3, albeit 1 in penalty shootouts. Wales won a couple of games. Ireland, I think, lost both their games, and so did Northern Ireland as well. So mixed bags there, and obviously there's a bunch of other big nations as well. You know, Germany's, Spain's, Italy's, etc., etc. They've all played games as well. So that's out the way. This weekend we've got back to the Premier League, at least for another 4 weeks, and then there's going to be obviously another round of international fixtures, or 3 rounds of international fixtures, should I say? So that's out of the way. There's been another 5 tests of positive tests of COVID-19 amongst the Premier League footballers in the latest round of tests. Again, not sure who's been tested positive. It's just been announced through the Premier League. Other thing as well, we spoke about Marcus Rashford in a promising way last week and previous weeks as well. So he's made the headlines again. Again, trying to do something positive, but it's been rejected. So he's been wanting to continue the school free meals for kids during the October half term and the Christmas holidays. So he had a petition going. He sent that to the government along with his people, his advisors, his team, and he actually got rejected. So they had obviously asked for an extension for the school meals, or free school meals, sorry, should I say, in the October half terms and the December holidays, and yeah, it's been rejected by the government. I think this one might have a bit more weight to it. I wouldn't be surprised if it, not be overturned immediately, but maybe if it gains a bit more traction, then possibly further down the line, the government will have to maybe listen and take stock and realise actually we do need to do something about it. Maybe not necessarily immediately, but possibly in the coming weeks or something might happen there. And sort of the big news that's sort of happened in the Premier League this sort of last sort of week or so is Project Big Picture, so PBP as it's called as well. So I haven't heard too much about this. So what's happened is I think Liverpool and Manchester United are heading this proposal. The proposal is to sort of help out the EFL clubs, but also to help out themselves in the Premier League as well. So what I've heard so far, and obviously there's still things that are ongoing that's going to sort of materialise as the days and weeks go on. But the first proposal is that Liverpool, so like I said, Liverpool and Man United are sort of heading it along with another 4 sort of big clubs as well, but so Chelsea, Chelsea, Spurs, Manchester City and Arsenal, so the other 4, but predominantly Man United and Liverpool. And what they're looking to do is they want to not participate in the EFL Cup anymore. So, say not, as in, so the no European clubs, so teams that are playing in Europe in the Premier League won't participate in the EFL Cup. However, everyone else will, which I don't think was a bad idea, just to help with fixture congestion and the quantity of games. They also want to reduce the Premier League down to 18 teams, which I thought was an interesting proposal. I wouldn't be adverse to it personally myself. And the other thing was that there was going to be only 2 relegations, so 18th and 17th get relegated, and then from the Championship, 1st and 2nd automatically gets promoted, and then there's like a playoff scheme, so there is going to be a 3rd relegation, potentially. So that would be 3rd, 4th and 5th in the Championship going to playoff along with 16th in the Premier League. So I'm not sure exactly how it works. It might be 16th in the Premier League plays 5th in the Champ, and then 3rd and 4th place in the Champ, and then as if it's going to be the sort of the playoff championship. In the championship, sorry. So that's sort of something else I've proposed as well. And on top of that, there was going to be sort of money given to the EFL. I think the first number that was rumoured around was 250 million spread across all 72 teams in the EFL, and then a bunch of money annually given sort of throughout a period of time as well. I believe this was rejected. I'm not sure. I don't think there was a vote as such took place a couple of days ago. It was more so have an open discussion, and it was just flat out rejected amongst the majority. So if it did go to a vote, I think it was a case of 14 clubs had to vote in the Premier League to agree with it for it to happen, and it didn't go to a vote. It's just an open conversation, and the general consensus was they're not happy with it as a group. So since that's moved on, sort of a couple of days later on, there has been a £50 million bailout towards just a straight bailout, £50 million straight to League One and League Two from the Premier League, and that has been rejected by the EFL as well. So yeah, I mean, EFL, especially League One and League Two clubs, they need cash immediately, straight away. They need it within days, as you could argue with some clubs. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of every club, but I've heard bits and bobs throughout on TV throughout the week where various chairmen have come on and said, I know, X amount of clubs that are going to go out bust by the end of the year, or by the end, I think one chairman even said by the end of the month, which is only a couple of weeks away, which is a really scary thought that a club in League One or League Two could be going bust in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know if that's just a scare tactic to try and put pressure on the Premier League to sort of, help out financially, I don't know, or even the government, I don't know, because they obviously need that rescue package as well. So that's kind of the state of play at the moment. I'm sure I guarantee this will have more negotiations and more offers, if you like, or put on the table from the Premier League, from the government, whatever it may be, to help out these League One, League Two. And let's not forget that there's clubs in the Championship that are probably financially struggling as well, so they obviously need a lot of help as well. So that's all your other news. Just going to move on to some transfers some that have materialised and some that have sort of happened as well. So, just to do a quick recap, the international market finished on the 5th of October, which we discussed on the last episode. I'll put the link in the description so you guys can check that out. But the domestic window is still open, so EFL clubs can still do deals with the Premier League. So one that has materialised, West Brom have finally made the signing of Huddersfield striker Carlan Grant. I believe he signed a 6-year contract, which is relatively rare, I would say. 6-year contract, traditionally it's a sort of a 3, 4, or 5 year deal, or a 4 with an option to a 5th. But he signed a 6-year deal, which is very interesting. So he was rumoured to join West Brom for a number of weeks prior to the window shutting, but I think they knew full well that they could make that deal happen with the days sort of during this international break, if you like. So that's happened, that's helped. He has scored a decent amount of goals for Huddersfield in the Champ, so that will help their sort of goal scoring options, if you like, in advanced areas, because that's one position they might be thinking they lack in, and obviously that's clear because they've signed a player. And then there's only one other that I want to discuss, and that's on the verge of happening, hasn't happened yet, but the lad from Brentford, Ben Rama, is a very, very exciting Algerian winger. Lots of tricks, lots of flair, very flamboyant. He's on the verge for signing for West Ham for a fee around about £30 million. So this deal, they've got up until sort of, I think it's 5 o'clock tonight, I think it is. So they've sort of got about 8 hours, 9 hours to sort of do so. So yeah, that looks like another sort of exciting player that could potentially be signing for West Ham. Whether it doesn't really make sense when he's thinking about it if that does happen, because West Ham sort of mentioned their squad was imbalanced. They had too many wingers, so they've sold one, which is fair enough, and they've got rid of, which is Gradient Dane-Gardner, to West Brom, and they let Felipe Anderson go to Porto on loan, which fair enough as well. But then they've still got ample wingers, which I've discussed on previous episodes as well. But nevertheless, I think he'll actually be a good signing for most clubs in the Premier League. If he went to Crystal Palace, if he went to Everton, for example, whatever it may be. I think he'll be quite an exciting player. I think he's a fan's favourite. I think he'll be. We'll just move on to some European fixtures as well, then, guys. So I won't discuss the actual fixtures themselves, but just to note that European football will start as of the first midweek back after the sort of domestic league start. So Champions League will start Tuesday. The big games Tuesday and Wednesday. And then you'll have Europa League on the Thursday. So that all our clubs include Man United, your Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea all in the Champions League Tuesday and Wednesday. Then you've got your Arsenal, Leicester and your Spurs all playing on the Thursday night as well. So that will basically continue for 3 weeks. So you'll have Premier League this weekend, Champions League, or should I say European football, Premier League, European football, Premier League, European football. Then there's another international break. And then basically that cycle repeats itself after the international break. So after that sort of 2 week period, again you go into domestic, European, domestic, European, domestic, European until all the group games are done. So it's quite fast paced, it's going to be fast, it's going to be flowing, it's going to be in your face. Loads of games, there's going to be loads of squad rotation I suspect amongst managers and teams. So yeah, that's sort of a bit of a heads up for you guys if you weren't aware. I'm sure you were. And then there won't be any Indy versus rest of the world this week. Obviously, there wasn't any fixtures last week, but I will be playing. I'll give you a heads up. I will be playing against a friend of mine, named called Adam Stanford. Call him Stan. His predictions are locked in already. So are mine. We're both locked in. So those will be revealed on next week's episode. Some interesting fixtures and results predicted. Both of us support Manchester United as well. So there's another clue there for you. Okay, finally we'll just move on to game week 5 fixtures. We'll just run through them. So the first one's an absolute cracker. You've got the Merseyside derby. That's the early kick-off on the Saturday, 12:30 kick-off, Everton versus Liverpool. Obviously, Merseyside seems to be fairly dominant in the Premier League at the moment, despite Liverpool's defeat 7-2 in the last game. But you Everton, who've won 4 out of 4, flying, Carlo Ancelotti sort of working his magic, if you like, there. You've got DCL scoring lots of goals, Richarlison chipping in, James Rodriguez. The whole Everton team, I don't want to just sort of talk about the advanced players, but you've even got the likes of Luca Dean and Coleman. The fullbacks are playing really well at the moment. Centre-halves are looking really, really solid. The only player you maybe could argue that isn't playing at his best is the goalkeeper Pickford, but hasn't cost them just yet. And touch wood for the lad, it doesn't happen in this game as well. You can imagine if Liverpool go and win the game 1-0 and it's Pickford drops one in the net or tries to play out from the back and he plays one into Mo Salah and he finishes it. It wouldn't be a nice wage for a game to win, certainly for the blue side of Merseyside anyway. And obviously you've got Liverpool, who had a lot of COVID cases, I must say, but some of them will be back. So they've missed Mane, Thiago. I think Naby Keita's, he's tested positive for coronavirus, so he'll probably miss the game. There's been 1 or 2 others as well. So they'll be quite strong. We've got Mo Salah's in brilliant form. However, they are missing Alisson, who's out for a period of time. I think it's about 6 weeks, but it just depends how quickly sort of his rehab is and how quickly he can sort of recover from his injury. So I mean, Adrian will play unless they make a signing today, which has been rumoured they might be signing Jack Butland from Stoke, the ex-international, England international goalkeeper. He's massively regressed, I would say, in his career the last sort of 2-3 years since they've been relegated from the Prem. But he's been linked there in a way. Moved on to Chelsea versus Southampton. This is a 3 o'clock game on the Saturday. So Chelsea will have a lot of their sort of star players back. The ones, there's been quite a few that have been missing. The likes of Ziyech, Pulisic will be back, although he came on for a few minutes in the last game. Obviously Kai Havertz will be more settled. Werner will be more settled. So they've got a lot more sort of players bedding in, if you like, and more sort of available. So they're all going to be looking a lot more threatening. Thiago Silva will be more comfortable. I haven't played a couple of games for Brazil. Chilwell, I think he picked up an injury for England, so he didn't play any games. But I'm not sure if he's going to be fit. But obviously, if he is fit, then he's going to be a bit more settled, a bit more fitter. So yeah, that'd be interesting from their point of view. One note I will mention is that the goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy, apparently picked up an injury on international duty. So it could mean that Kepa's back in goal, which would be one to sort of watch his space, if you like. And then Southampton they've obviously got the obvious threats with the likes of Danny Ings and the set pieces from Ward-Prowse. But generally speaking, they've sort of turned the corner after the first couple of games. It's had some decent results, scoring a goals. Danny Ings doing Danny Ings things really. So I think from a neutral point of view, I think it'd be quite a good spectacle. I think it could be a bit of a hammer and tongue type of game. I can't imagine Chelsea playing too defensive. They're going to go for it, which will help Southampton's game plan because Danny Ings like to exploit the space and sort of threaten the space in behind, and they haven't got electric centre halves depending who plays. I mean, Thiago was not electric, Christensen's not electric, Zuma's not electric, although he's probably the quickest out of the three. So yeah, that'll be a good game. And you got the big game, or the biggest game I would say for the weekend. You got Man City versus Arsenal, Pep versus Arteta. They've obviously head to head a few times so far since Arteta's left Manchester City. Sorry, in fact they actually played each other, didn't they? In Project Restart, it was the second game back, and I think Man City won 3-0. So this game, I think it was all dependent on the availability of Manchester City players. The Aguero, is he back? Is he not? Jesus again, is he back? Is he not? Sterling, he picked up a hamstring injury, didn't play for England on international duty, so that effectively was their third option up front. Will he be fit? Will he not? So that's three major players that potentially could harm them. Bernardo Silva, will he have to quarantine? Will he not after what happened with Cristiano Ronaldo? There's obviously other players as well. Kevin De Bruyne fit. He obviously missed a Belgium game after coming off injured against England. So there's more question marks, I'll say, in the Manchester City camp in terms of personnel and availability. Nevertheless, obviously, they've still got a lot of depth in their squad. The only question mark is if the first three players I mentioned, Jesus, Aguero and Sterling, moving, that does leave them very short in sort of the attacking area, if you like. They still have plenty in the wide areas. You've got Mahrez, you've still got Torres, a young lad. You can even play Foden out there as well. So plenty of options there. And then obviously Arsenal, they've started the season fairly well, only losing to Liverpool, which I discussed at the last episode. It can happen to anybody. Willian relatively been sort of steady, if you like. Aubameyang's been quite steady. Lacazette's probably been the best performer of the three. Pepe, when he's come on, looked lively. He scored a goal or two as well. I think in the last game he came on and scored a good individual sort of mazy goal, if you like. And then defensively they looked a lot more assured, not just in terms of their defending, but just in terms of their team structure, organisation, the distances between the units. And obviously the goalkeeper Leonard always looked sharp and good as well. Never really let them down. So that'd be a very, very good game actually. That'd be a good test actually to see are Arsenal on the right. I mean, I'm sure they are on the right path, but sort of to maybe just to measure, against a sort of big team in brand new season. Are they pretenders? Are they contenders? Should I put it that way? Newcastle versus Man United. Obviously, Man United being my team. Newcastle done pretty well this season. Have won a few games. I think 2 out of 4. St. Maximin tearing it up, looking absolute player. I think there's rumours that he might be signing a new contract. I think that's just sort of obviously secure his services as well, and obviously to fend off maybe some bigger interest possibly in the next window or two, or at least put his value up, if you like. You've got Ryan Fraser, obviously he's getting more match fitness. Joe Linton's playing well. Andy Carroll's playing well. Callum Wilson scoring lots of goals. Newcastle this season look a lot better going forward, and I think that's more so to do with 1, the formation, 2, the mentality, and 3, the personnel that's available to them. I think last season Steve Bruce tried to play that at the beginning of last season, and it didn't work because they didn't have the personnel and the quality in the advanced areas to hurt opposition. So they went back to the old way of playing 5 at the back, tried and tested the way that Rafa Benitez, the previous manager, played, and it worked for them and they got results. So you kind of went back to that knowing the group were comfortable with that. So you could argue that's very good management, it's well identified. But this season you can tell why their purchases in the market. It's a lot of advanced players, a lot of flair players. So they've gone to that way where you could argue it's the Newcastle way as well. And Man United obviously struggling massively at the moment. Can't pick up too many wins. They've picked up 1 win in the league, lost 2. Conceded a lot of goals. Obviously the Spurs game, which we won't discuss anymore. Will Bruno Fernandes have to quarantine? I don't know. There's rumours going around. I hope he doesn't have to. Although I would kind of like to see Van der Beek given a chance in that number 10 role. Harry Maguire's situation doesn't help, getting sent off, not playing particularly well, making mistakes. A lot of things going on with him. And just the team generally not sort of particularly great at the moment. However, a lot of players would have gone on international duty away from their club, maybe a different mentality, different morale, different spirit. Maybe come back reboosted, re-energised, more game time, more minutes in their legs and their lungs. as hopefully they can maybe kick-start their season from this point onwards. So that's the late kick-off on the Saturday, and that's actually on the box office as well, so it's a fee of £14.95 on Sky if you're interested in buying that. No, I don't work for Sky, but I thought I'd mention that. So Sheffield United versus Fulham is the early game on Sunday. Both teams struggling, both teams haven't picked up any points, so this is already, you could argue, a very, very big game for both clubs. I think Sheffield United only just scored their first goal in their previous game against Arsenal, so that'll be interesting to see. Maybe that might give them a bit more confidence knowing they can score again. It might sound really stupid, it's only 4 games in, but going into that 4th game, 3 games without a goal, maybe they're thinking it's very difficult, going to have that second season syndrome. They obviously signed Ryan Brewster as well, they chuck him in straight away. Fulham, obviously, they've made some deadline signings as well. They started looking before the deadline, but a couple of centre-halves they've brought in as well. So the goalkeeper. They've got Mitrovic who can score goals, Kenny in midfield, and them types of players. It's a big game already. It could be someone can pick up a W here that possibly kickstart their season, and it'll be a big kick in the teeth, and for the team they'll be going to beat as well. So moving on to 2 o'clock, Crystal Palace versus Brighton. Both teams actually started off pretty well this season. Brighton very much more easier on the eye. They play more attractive football, I would suggest. Crystal Palace always playing how Crystal Palace play, generally speaking quite defensive, although and then playing sort of more on the counter-attack with either 2 or 3 players. But this season they have been a bit more attacking. They've maybe lost a bit more of a central player and added more of an advanced type player, advanced thinking player, which helped them in terms of sort of being more of a threat going forward, most notably against Man United at Old Trafford. So yeah, I think this will be actually a good game for the neutral, providing both teams sort of play their normal game, if you like. I think it'll be a very good game because Brighton will play quite open and expansive, and that will play into Crystal Palace's hands with Zaha and AU and Batshuayi and Townsend and Schlupp and all these other players. Then you've got a little bit of a London derby. You've got Spurs versus West Ham. Spurs doing pretty well, especially in that last week leading up to the international break, winning the Europa League game, Premier League game as well, and getting through in the Cup as well against Chelsea. Son looking good, very good, actually scoring lots of goals. Harry Kane scoring goals and assists. West Ham, they can't rule them out. They've played really well in the last couple of games as well. Back-to-back wins, and Leicester, and I think they beat Wolves as well. So two teams that got decent pedigree in the Premier League, especially last season. So that'll be very buoyant for them. It'll be interesting to see because if you remember rightly, David Moyes had to self-isolate, so he wasn't actually at the 2 games. He will be back, and provided he hasn't tested positive again on the dugout. Will that have an adverse effect on the team, or is it just coincidental that they picked up 2 results when he wasn't there and Irvine was on the touchline? Who knows? I'm just chucking theories out there, guys. I can't imagine it being that case, I don't think. Leicester versus Aston Villa, so you've got a Midlands derby here. Leicester obviously relatively good form, continuing their start, if you like, from last season, so they've started again quite strong. Vardy scoring goals, Harvey Barnes looking quite electric. They've obviously got players to come in, missing Ricardo Pereira, Johnny Evans has only played 1 game, James Maddison's barely played, and Didi's out for a long period of time, so he'll come back in, so they'll only get stronger. And then Aston Villa have made an electric start, scoring lots of goals, looking very threatening. Ollie Watkins scoring plenty of goals, Jack Grealish looking absolutely fire at the moment. Both fullbacks looking very, very advanced, lots of pace, joining in with the attacks. Good addition with Ross Barkley coming in, along with John McGinn and Douglas Luiz in the midfield area. I think it adds a nice sort of balance and a lot of sort of power in that midfield, if you like. So that'll actually be a good game, actually. It'll be interesting to see what type of game it will be. Will it be Leicester in possession, Villa on the counter? Will it be hammer and tong kind of game, basketball type of game? I'm not sure. But again, that's a 7:15 game on the Sunday, so that'll be a good game. Again, that's Sky Sports box office, guys. £14.95. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Then moving on to the Monday, so there's a couple of games on the Monday. You've got West Brom versus Burnley. Not much to say about this game. I will talk about it because I have to do it. It's my job. But West Brom and Burnley. So you got West Brom with Sam Bilic obviously in charge. They've picked up 1 point, which was against Chelsea. A really strong sort of first half performance, scoring 3 goals. So they're off the mark in that sense. Obviously, I've just mentioned they signed Carlan Grant as well, whether he'll be chucked in straight away along with Diagana and Pereira, which actually would be quite an exciting front three, for like, especially on the counter-attack. There's a lot of pace, a lot of trickery, a lot of penetration there. Defensively is where their worries will be, and this is where I think Burnley could exploit them with the likes of Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood. With Dwight McNeil and say it's Brady or Goodnarson, crossing the ball in to the likes of those two strikers. This is where West Brom's sort of weaknesses are. So that's where my game plan if I was Sean Dyche. Not that they would change much anyway against any other position, but especially against West Brom where they struggle defensively. So I'll be peppering the box with plenty of crosses, lots of set pieces, every opportunity. Even if I get a free kick in my own half, I'll be asking, right, Popey, take it. Let's go and play long. Let's get a win first ball, second contacts, all them kind of things, and then play from there. And then actually another really exciting game, which is 8 o'clock kickoff on the Monday, which is Leeds versus Wolves. Two really good teams actually. Leeds obviously newly promoted to the Premier League. They absolutely look like they should belong in the Premier League. They're playing really, really well, picking up decent points. Playing against some of the big boys and not looking out of place either. Then you've got Wolves, who you could argue were the Leeds of the last few seasons and still are relatively strong as well. Raul Jimenez looking strong defensively. Goalkeeper Patricio, Cody sort of marshalling the back line as well, or the back three / back five, and then the experience and the know-how of Neves and Moutinho in midfield. So I think this could potentially be a really good game as well. I think Leeds will play very much on the front foot, and so whether they can take their chances, they take the game to Wolves. But this is where Wolves will come into their own on the counter-attack, where there's lots of space to exploit. Adama Traore and Jimenez and probably Podence or Neto probably take advantage of. There are lots of spaces on the transitions, and this is why I think this game will be exciting, because once Wolves have transitioned, if that does break down, Leeds will just go for it again, because that's their mentality. That's how Bielsa wants them to play. I think that would be a really, really good game actually. We're looking forward to that one. And again, that's actually on Sky Sports. The 5:30 game, West Brom against Burnley, is actually on Box Office as well. Okay guys, that actually concludes another episode of the Premier League Appetiser show. If you haven't subscribed, please do so guys. That's a wrap there. I'm going to finish the episode right there. Leave a like, leave a comment. Peace out.